In the interest of moving on, gentlemen, I'd like to pivot our conversation to modular facility design. But before we do that, Miles, would you mind revealing the results of that first poll question? It seems that between validation and modular facility design, that's what people want to hear about the most. Well, you guys are in luck.
Okay.
Also, I'd like to remind the audience, we saw some questions coming in from Charles. Thank you, Charles. But to the rest of you, please, we welcome your questions. It's not often that you get almost direct access to these experts. So fire away. We'll try our best to answer them throughout the event. But Fred, let's pivot to you here. We're talking about modular facility design. Why do you think companies should consider a modular design in the first place?
Well, I am a huge advocate of modular facility design. And of course, there's different definitions, different types of modular facility design. Obviously, the one I'm most experienced with would be the modular wall panels, ceiling panels, walls, ceilings, windows, doors, and such. So those are all individual components that come together and assembled in the field. There's the other modular systems could be complete clean rooms that are offered as a turnkey package there, where a complete clean room can actually be delivered and installed within shelf space. So even like a warehouse for that matter. So again, what I'm more familiar with is the panel systems for ceilings and walls and such. Herman and I had the good fortune to work together on a project for Locus Biosciences about 4 years ago or so. We worked very, very closely with AES Clean Technologies, and they were basically our design partner from the beginning of the project. So we brought them in very, very early in the design phase, and did the layout development based on their modules. And most for the walls, they were primarily 4 foot in width, and they wound up being, I think, 9 foot in height. And then we worked with them for them providing almost a complete turnkey package, which included all of the walls, the ceilings, the doors, the HEPA filters, some of the wall mounted devices, some of the ceiling mounted devices, all the clean room light fixtures that were flush to the panels. And so it turned out to be a very, very great project for us. It got some national recognition from ISPE and some local recognition from the Associated General Contractors as one of the top under $10 million facility of the year awards. So there's a lot of advantages to using a modular system like that. The big, probably one of the biggest one is you do not have you have a single source to come back to and communicate with. So especially when it's turnkey like that. If you wind up with a stick-built system, you have multiple trades. You have a framing contractor, you have a drywall manufacturer, you have finishers for the drywall, or whether it's epoxy or some other material. So you have all those trades, and the fact that it is very messy work when you're doing field fabricated, field assembled, stick-built walls, floors, and ceilings. So obviously, the goal is to try to have as much of the systems fabricated in a factory. It's far more precise. The level of cleanliness, the level of finish is far better than a field assembled, field erected system.
Yeah.
Actually, to build on what Fred said, you can you build these things. They go together like Legos. Think of it like
Yeah.
that. It's really like Legos.
Yeah.
And if you want to, you could go to their factory and you could actually see the erection of your clean room right there in their factory. Or they could start it in your warehouse. And so you could actually test it out and see, does this make sense, the spatial relationships and so on. And for the validation aspect, you could begin the facility IQ, even before they put it in place, because you have all the components, all the pieces.
Right.
You can actually see it, and as it goes together. The fact of the matter is that putting together this Lego type system for the modular will go up in 2 weeks. So you're not sitting there waiting with your clipboards for quite a while. You've got all the drawings, you got all the specifications, you got all the information, you've written your protocols. The thing goes up in 2 weeks, boom, and you're in there, you're doing the facility IQ, you have the guys drop in the HVAC, and now you're doing the facility OQ. So the reality is that the compaction of the field end of the validation becomes very, very short, and all your upfront work can be done well in advance.
Right. I think you have to spend more time doing the front end planning to coordinate the location of a lot of the utilities, as far as creating chases and identifying where utilities will be located. In our case, for the Locus Biosciences, we created these chases that would have a lot of the wet piping primarily, or whatever. And I don't recall all the different utilities, Herman offhand, but we wanted to avoid having any kind of utility piping actually inside the walls themselves. So when we created these chases, that gave it, they were far more accessible, and it was easier to construct for sure in the field. So the other thing is, the wall panels are typically 4 foot modules. At the end of each panel, there is a chase, about a 3-inch wide chase on each end of the panel, and that's basically for power and for data. So again, it takes a little bit more time to plan ahead and make sure that all the utilities and all the other systems find their right locations. But as Herman said, once that's determined, and once the ceiling panels and the wall panels are delivered in the field, and they start setting those panels on their preformed track, it goes very, very quickly. And again, a lot less mess, a lot less dust, and just it's a lot less impact on ongoing operations. So I think those are a lot of the advantages of using a modular, clean room system.
And Fred's point about planning. So what we did in that particular case, you also have chases in the wall panels. So we designate, one is for high voltage, one is for low voltage power, one is for instrumentation, one is for security systems and door systems. So if you go ahead and you do that, it eliminates the arm wrestling and the argument in the field between the trades, because you're going to have the security folks are going to want to do something. The low voltage instrument guys are going to want to do this. The high voltage guys are going to do this. So basically, if you do this and you lay it out and you designate it, it eliminates a lot of the argument. And what it does is it makes the construction go a lot faster. And you do want that to happen, because when the construction goes faster, you can check your stuff off and get everything in line, and you get ready to deliver the facility.
Yeah, just one point on that, to get kind of accelerated delivery piece of it, is one of the best things that I've experienced is doing a delegated design during bringing in that modular vendor during that. Because what will happen then is when you get to those construction drawings, you don't have a set of, you'll have their shop drawings at the same time. We won't be going out, bidding construction drawings, going through a bid cycle, waiting for them to, after they've been awarded the bid, waiting for them to come develop their shops along with coordination, come back to you. So then it seems like one of the greatest opportunities to really accelerate schedule is in that time between construction, that between issuing for construction and when construction actually starts, is minimizing that. And by bringing in one of those vendors like an AES into delegated design, that whole time period, which could be, depending upon if you're doing, how that bid process goes, it could be months that you can just cut out of your schedule by incorporating them early in the design.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's exactly what we did. We brought them in very, very early in the design. We worked with their modular, dimensions. We came up with obviously, even in conceptual design, we had the layouts done. We passed those layouts back to AES, and basically they started to assemble, piece drawings and identify all the different parts and pieces of the design, and that they continued the development of the detailed design for their particular system. So they took ownership of it. We reviewed their shop drawings to make sure that it was in compliance with the intent of our design, and it went exceptionally smoothly. So, and again, the erection time was unbelievably short.
Yeah, I mean, Fred did an extended, we did at the end of conceptual design, Fred did a little extended conceptual design and turned it right over to AES. And then they picked it up, they constantly talked to us, but they were essentially did what we typically call the BOD and the detailed design. They took that all on themselves and they compressed it because they know their product, they know how to do this. They compressed everything and then boom, went to construction drawings. And then when Fred went into the field to compare what he originally did versus them, remember your comment was they were in one spot, they were off by 1/4 of an inch.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how good and how precise this can work. So by chopping down, essentially we eliminated the BOD phase. That's why we got this thing in and out in 9 months. Think about that.
Yeah, that is yes. These are great points that you guys are making, and I do see some questions coming in about facilities and utilities and things like water. And I assure you, we will get to utilities. I want to pivot there soon, but before we do, Miles, would you mind putting up the next poll question? And while that's up for our audience, Fred, I did just want to ask to put a bow on the modular part of our conversation.
Okay, sure.
We're outlining a bunch of great benefits and advantages from speed to cleanliness of construction and everything in between. But I'm curious if there are any downsides you think people should consider when it comes to modular facility design.
Sure. I mean, I think you're going to pay a premium for that. You're going to, and I think you've got to weigh the difference between the cost of materials for a stick-built system plus all the additional labor. Because I mentioned earlier that you're going to have a framer, you're going to have a drywaller, you're going to have a painter or a finisher. So you've got 3 trades for just putting up a stick-built wall system and ceiling system versus 1. So so you're going to pay more in labor for a stick-built system than you are for a modular system, where 90% of the labor is actually done in the factory. Even the cutouts for openings for HEPA filters and lights, that's all done in the factory. The only thing they're really going to do in the field is some minor drilling for piping, things like that, small pipe. So again, going back to cost, yes, the materials are far more expensive for specifying a modular wall panel and ceiling panel system, but the savings in labor offsets that. So overall, you're probably still going to pay more for it, but you're getting a much better finished product.
The other thing, let me add to what Fred said about the trades. It's very important is that the amount of people available to do trades, the finishers, the drywallers, it's decreasing, and finding those people and getting them to the site and getting them to work, we always see today is greater delays and unavailability of these people. The fact is that you're using the modular wall system, we eliminate having to worry about the availability of trades. We built this locust facility in the dead of COVID. And quite frankly, if we wanted to have multiple trades and do this stick built, we would have it more difficult because we had to limit the amount of people on the site and the amount of interaction with people. So we built this right, we were right in the middle where everybody's wearing masks and gloves and everything. Yep. So it made a big difference not having a lot of tradesmen around.
Yeah. Good point, Herman. Very good point.
I'll throw one other consideration that's a potential downside to modular. You have to know what you want. You have to define what you want very early on.
Yes.
We just talked about eliminating, BOD. We had talked about we're basically pulling shops into the construction drawings. You need to know, you need to be on top of them. You may, if you don't know the modular vendor, you don't know their product, you don't have experience with their product, you may be surprised by what you receive. And this is not, again, kind of not with that stick built system. There's a certain amount that I can deal with in the field. If I need to move things around, it's a little easier. There's more opportunities to review things during construction. So it's good in the sense that you've picked up the pace, but that can also bite you if you didn't have time to review everything. You didn't have time to do that analysis. When you're looking at, going through, design phase so fast on the owner side, you get thousands of pages of specs and a couple hundred pages of regular design drawings, plus the 100 pages of vendor shops that are going to be going all at the same time. It's very difficult to keep up with that. And if you don't have intimate knowledge of the products, things will get missed, and you'll be looking at mismatches in the field or wondering, wait, is that what I asked for? When it's all built.
Yeah. All great points, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Just to answer one question that popped up in the inbox over here, in these systems, in all the major suites, they got an individual router for a Cisco Meraki router. So all the automation, all the process inside of that went up directly up into the Wi-Fi. So we had a major design above the ceilings of these AES panels with the Wi-Fi system, and everything was integrated with a Rockwell Allen Bradley system. And secondly, is we worked everything with American vendors that we knew. Then I will tell you right now, I would not recommend going to a modular building vendor in China or God knows where, and then expecting it to be put on a boat and then shipped all the way across to the U.S. So working with people that in a local area, some within the Eastern Seaboard or the Western Seaboard, is worth its weight in gold. And again, having it built 10,000 miles away does nobody any good.